Hi there, it's Nicole for Pretty Pink Posh, and today I'm sharing a trifold card with the new Fly Away Friends stamp set. This is an adorable hot air balloon and airplane stamp set with the little critters in it that are so super cute and fun. And to make my trifold card base, I have a piece of 9 by 12 Bristol Smooth cardstock here, and I'm using the Bristol cardstock because it takes distress ink or distress oxide ink so well. I'm not going to fold it or put the score lines in it yet, but I'm going to take this extra piece left over from cutting out my card base, which I cut at 5.5 inches wide, so it's a standard size. It's just not going to be quite as wide as an A2 sized card. It'll only be 4 inches, which will work fine, especially since it's going to be a trifold, so it's going to be a little thicker than a standard card. From that, I'm going to take a Stitched Borders 2 die from Pretty Pink Posh and die cut that cloud border and just set that aside. Now, instead of scoring it first like I was mentioning, I'm going to add the ink first. I've created several of these cards lately that are trifold design, and I always score them first because I guess I'm always so excited to go ahead and get that interactive fold-out type element done first. And a viewer mentioned that the ink seems to pool around the seams, which it does. It doesn't totally bother me all that much, but if it bothers you, this is how you can avoid that. Go ahead and do any inking or anything like this first, and then go ahead and score the card. So I'm going to do all my scoring second. I'm using Salty Ocean Distress ink to add color to my background. And I'm purposely leaving that bottom edge free from ink because it's going to be covered up with the cloud border anyway. I've blotted it with a little water from a distress sprayer, and then I'll blot it dry with a paper towel. I didn't go real heavy with that because I wanted it to be pretty light distressing. In fact, I smeared it just a little bit, which is okay. I can disguise that with the elements I'm going to put in the sky here in a little bit. Once I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside to completely dry. Since I've added a little water to it, it will stay wet for a little bit unless you go ahead and take a heat tool. So there's my cloud border and then the blue background. And it's going to fold out for this really fun wide seam. My seams are going to be right here at the 4-inch marks. I am going to use this as my guide to kind of gauge how many hot air balloons I think I need, how many critters and things like that. I can always build more if I want to. What I love is that previously released stamp sets like the Camping Friends stamp set that I was showing right there from Pretty Pink Posh has extra critters. So I am choosing to go with the hot air balloons as opposed to the airplane. I love the airplane, but I've created an airplane trifold card recently, so I thought I'd go with the hot air balloons, and they're super fun to color. So I am going to use multiples of the hot air balloons. I've got lots of little critters, all of the critters from the Flyaway Friends, the critters from Camping Friends, and I'm even going to grab some from the Winter Friends stamp set. The birds are from the Camping Friends stamp set. I'm going to start coloring that first. 2 of them here. These are going to kind of be around the features for the greetings on the card. The first panel is going to feature a greeting stamped directly on the cloud, and then the last panel is going to have the rest of the greeting. The greetings are from the new Flyaway Friends stamp set that I've stamped on that sign from Camping Friends. I thought it would be fun to use that sign. Instead of being in a campground, it's going to be a little sign in the clouds. Coloring in my hot air balloons, everything, all of the hot air balloons, the small ones, the dots on the little ones, all of them are going to be in these same colors of Copic markers. The only difference is the order that I'm going to color them in, and maybe they won't feature all of the colors like the big balloons do, but that's going to add a little bit of interest so that they aren't all exactly the same. I did go in a rainbow order, but I went with a pastel rainbow order as opposed to a more primary color. I thought this was kind of a fun little take on the rainbow look and really bright and fun. So once that balloon is kind of colored there, these are the colors I'm using, and I just kind of kept them out on my desk while I colored. Some browns for the baskets. All of the baskets are going to be in these same shades. 3 colors, E53, 55, and 57. The Sunshine, also from Camping Friends, goes great with these up in the clouds, hot air balloon style of scene card that I have here. So it's a nice addition. You can even add a face to it if you want to. There are little faces in the stamp set. I decided to leave mine blank just because I have all of these critters and I felt like that was plenty. Same colors of brown for the basket on the hot air balloons is going to be used for the post that the happy birthday sign is on there. I did customize this sign. That is one of my favorite things about this particular sign from Pretty Pink Posh is that it's customizable and lots of the greetings from the different stamp sets will fit in it. So it makes it perfect. It can be used in lots of different ways. And I decided to have my sign be a bright, colorful sign instead of a wood sign. I also love that there are 3 sizes of hot air balloons in this stamp set. A couple years ago, Pretty Pink Posh teamed up with Simon Says Stamp for their Stamp Timber event where they have collaboration stamp sets. And they're limited edition and exclusive, and they had one with hot air balloons and these little critters, and it was just super popular. It's been one of my favorites forever. I've loved it. But it's sold out, and it was a limited edition, so when they're gone, they're gone. And I love that Pretty Pink Posh came out with this stamp set. It's very similar. So if you loved that and you wanted one of these or one of those stamp sets, now you can own this. Plus it comes with an airplane as well, which I think it's really fun to stick those little critters out of the airplane. Just really cute, very unique idea. I like that you can mix and match the critters from multiple stamp sets to really create unique, fun little designs. You could take some of these from the Flyaway Friends and tuck them into the camping scene cards. You can use them in lots of different ways, and I just really love that about the Pretty Pink Posh stamp sets. So many of them work together really well. That's always one of my favorite things when looking at stamp companies, when they keep coming out with new stamp sets that will work with older ones. It's one of my very favorite things. Gets the most use out of your supplies. I also try to fill my piece of paper here as much as possible. So I had to flip some of the images upside down to get them to fit. Again, just coloring in these balloons. I will cut out some of the coloring since a trifold card generally takes a lot more images than a standard card would, because essentially you're covering 3 panels, 3 fronts of cards instead of just maybe the traditional one, or maybe if you did the front of a card and did a pop-up on the inside. Still, this covers 3 whole panels when you're doing this. So I always feel like a more full, complete scene makes it so much more fun to look at, but it often requires quite a bit more coloring, and I find that really fun. I oftentimes will die cut everything at the same time, but I was so anxious to see how my hot air balloons looked on the background. I went ahead and die cut a whole bunch of those elements first and laid them out on my card, which is out of the video camera screen here because I was so anxious to see it, and I really was loving how it looked. So then I'm going to come back and color in my critters, which this adorable hedgehog is just absolutely adorable. Love, love, love the little hedgehog. Little skunk next. In fact, I was really anxious to see how my hedgehog looked in the hot air balloon, so I cut him out too. Some nice warm grays for my little skunk and some little R20 for the cheeks to make all of their little faces so super cute and fun. Very whimsical. Darken up that little stripe there at top in his paws. The raccoon from Camping Friends, and the beaver is also from Camping Friends. So both of these next two images are from Camping Friends. I really thought I might be able to get away with just these 4, and I really felt like I needed even more. I like the idea of hanging some of the critters on the medium-sized hot air balloon. And so I went ahead and went back to my collection of stamps and grabbed some of the Winter Friends. If you did happen to have that Simon Says stamp and Pretty Pink Posh collaboration stamp set, there are some very fun critters in that would work as well. Since it's no longer available, I didn't use them here, but if you own that, there's like a cat and a dog and a bunny and something else I can't remember right now, but you could really fill up your scene with lots of critters. I am adhering my cloud border to my card base first, and then I'm scoring it at 4 inches from each end. One thing about doing it this way, it does help keep the cloud border from shifting, and maybe if you don't score it exactly the same on each piece. However, some of my border tore a little bit when I bent the card and used my bone folder to crease it really well. You can see it a little bit. It doesn't bother me too bad, but I think if I did it again, I would score each piece individually and just piece them together. I wanted it to have that seamless cloud border. I did one a couple weeks ago, and I just pieced the cloud border together, and it'll leave a little seam, but it's easier to fold that way. This is a little bit harder to fold. It may not stay quite as flat since it's a little more dimensional, so it's just kind of personal preference, whatever you like the best. Little images like this, everything I think except the largest hot air balloon fit through my Xyron sticker maker. This is the, I think, 1.5 inch wide sticker maker. It makes it great because you can simply stick your images right down. The whole back is sticky. It's just kind of nice and quick. I mentioned this in another Trifold video, but if you wanted to give this kind of as a gift to someone where you either color in all the images or maybe you just stamp them with the black ink and let the recipient color them, the recipient could essentially build the scene if you make all of these stickers, tuck them inside the card, and let the recipient put together their own scene. I think for kids especially, that would be super fun. And depending on the age, you could color them ahead of time for maybe younger kids who just want to put together a scene, or for older kids, go ahead and leave them black and white images and they can color them themselves and then put the scene together. But put them in that sticker maker so that all they have to do is stick them on the card, and it allows them some creativity. Just building all of my little, kind of trying to get my spacing correct. You don't really want anything where those creases are because it's going to make it super hard to fold the card. Plus it's will make the images a little funny. So I try to stay away from the seams. I did stamp the Flying By to Say greeting on the first panel. I'm going to tuck one of my little birds here. The other one is sitting on the signpost at the end of the card, where that last panel is where you can write a little note to the recipient. Anything hanging off the edges of the cards, hot air balloons, things like that, I'm going to trim off the excess. This does help ground the images by having a few of them hang off some of the sides or the top or things like that. Here's kind of what it looks like so far, and you can see there's quite a bit of white space. It still needs a little something. I'm going to go ahead and add some detail to the eyes while I contemplate what exactly I want to do next. I knew I wanted to stamp some stars from the flying or the Fly Away Friends. There's some great stars in that stamp set. Also some hearts. I wanted to do the stars here for this card. But I felt like I needed a few more images of some sort, and I thought vellum clouds would be just the thing. From the Rainy Days stamp set from Pretty Pink Posh, I am stamping the open cloud design with Versamark ink on vellum, sprinkling on some white embossing powder, and then heat setting this. And this is going to give me some great white outline vellum clouds. And what I love about vellum is you can layer it over some images and you're still going to see the image underneath. It's just going to be slightly muted. Vellum clouds are one of my favorite little accents, and I think they add a ton to the design of this particular card. I've got 5 of them here. In order to hide the adhesive, you could run them through the sticker maker and make the whole back sticky. I often really like to add just little dabs of glue underneath the embossing and then put them in place. So I'm adding little dabs of glue and then laying them on the card where I want them to go and putting something heavy on top to hold them flat until the glue dries. Liquid adhesive can make that vellum curl up a little bit. And even though you're using small dabs of glue, they do tend to try to curl, so I like to use something heavy. Just an acrylic block works fantastic, and we generally all have those lying about, especially if we're stamping. So those are a great, nice little heavy item you can lay over vellum pieces, or anything really. Anything I need to hold down and keep flat, I generally use an acrylic block for. So isn't that fun? You can see the colorful hot air balloons through those vellum clouds, but they add so much to the design of the card. Now the bear and the penguin and the seal, probably it's a polar bear. I'm going to color him dark, but these are from the Winter Friends stamp set. And even though they're winter friends, I think they're so cute. They totally match the feel of the rest of the Fly Away Friends and the Camping Friends. So I'm going to go ahead and use these to finish off the card, and they're really going to just kind of complete the design as far as critters go. Because they're just these little critters that appear to be hanging out of either hot air balloons or the airplane, or in the Camping Friends, the tent. In the Winter Friends, I believe they can look like they're hanging off of or out of a stocking or a coffee mug or things like that. So it's really fun to just incorporate all of these little critters. And you could mix and match some of these newer ones with other stamp sets. So maybe at Christmas time you can incorporate the little hedgehogs and skunks and things into those winter ones. I did stamp a bunch of the stars using the Simon Says Stamp Blue Jay ink kind of all over the place. And then to finish, I'm using some Pretty Pink Posh iridescent mini star confetti scattered throughout. It's a nice addition to the stamped stars, gives a little bit of glitz and glimmer, and just finishes off the card really nicely. Thanks for joining me today for this trifold card featuring the Pretty Pink Posh Fly Away Friends stamp set, as well as other Pretty Pink Posh stamps and dies. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Pretty Pink Posh that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.